Live. So welcome again to the live chat with Mr. Leong Sze Hian on this every Wednesday 1 p.m. So today, while we are waiting for some comments or questions that's coming in from the members of public, we would start with some topics. So, Mr. Leong, I think yesterday you posted something about the Singaporeans earning less than $1,500, right?
Yes, I made a post, because it's May Day, and as usual, the May Day messages are coming out, all sounding very good. That because of our tripartite system and our unique, labor movement, Singaporean workers, at least the narrative seems to imply that are getting a very good deal and better off than most other countries.
So what do you have to say in contrast to what the minister, the still current manpower minister Josephine Teo have to say?
I would say let the numbers do the talking. The narrative may say, oh, this good, that good, everything good, but at the end of the day, look at the numbers. So let me give you the most, I would call arguably the most sad and startling number. There are 158,000 resident workers, locals, full-time resident workers, whose monthly pay is less than $1,500, including the employee CPF contribution. So if you take away the typical 20% employee CPF contribution, for a person earning less than $1,500 a month, you're looking at a take-home pay of less than $1,200. And this figure I've just cited to you are full-time employed workers. Now, if you include the part-time workers, we are looking something like about 340,000 local workers who earn less than $1,500, including employee CPF. And these two figures does not include the unemployed, because these are employed workers. And currently, we have about 100,000 unemployed residents.
How many unemployed?
Unemployed residents now is about 100,000. Now, of course, the figures that I've cited to you earlier on the income is pre-COVID numbers, because it's based on the Yearbook of Manpower Statistics 2020, the latest published available. It talks about pre-COVID-19, statistics. Now, if we have not gotten the so-called, last year or this year's income figures, but the latest figure we have for unemployed residents is about slightly over 100,000.
So would you say that the situation today, right, would be even worse off?
Yes, because what I have talked about so far are pre-COVID-19 statistics. They arguably must be much worse now with all these surveys and statistics coming out that, so many people have had income cut of more than 30%, 50%. So many people have gone on to take SG traineeship jobs at presumably much lower pay than their previous ones.
So before I touch on that, right? So Jonathan Ho is asking about the residents at the as stated in the recent MAS report. Maybe we would like to go into the definition of residents, because I think a lot of people are still not aware when the Singapore government refers to residents, right? What do they refer to?
Residents means Singaporeans and PRs.
Right.
So for example, there is no breakdown of the resident workforce into Singaporeans and PRs. Although there is breakdown of the unemployed into Singaporeans and PRs. This is very strange because if you can break down the unemployed into Singaporeans and PRs, why can't you regularly break down the workforce numbers into Singaporeans and PRs? Even the long-term unemployed figures also are not broken down into Singaporeans and PRs. And I can go on. Even the job growth figures are also not broken down into Singaporeans and PRs. It's only the unemployed that they do give a breakdown.
Okay, so going back to what we were discussing in terms of the status of employment, given that we know that a lot of Singaporeans earn less than 1,500, and we are taught this is inclusive of CPF contribution, meaning if you were to consider the cash that they get end of the day, right, wouldn't that mean that they would be in a more paramount situation, taking consideration of what they have to pay for, especially if they're kids, if they're family and kids?
Yes, I mean, you take out your wallet, you look at it, and you ask yourself, can I survive on a take-home pay of less than $1,200? Can my family survive on a take-home pay of less than $1,200?
So okay, again, to jump away from the question, to answer someone who's inside, does the resident also include dependent pass holders?
No, the resident workforce is only Singaporeans and PRs. It does not include the dependent pass holders. The foreign workers and the dependent pass workers, I understand, are in a separate category called the non-residents.
Okay, I hope that answers your question, Jonathan. So by the way, for those people who are just joined us, I would like to wish you all good afternoon, happy mid of the week, and do chime in if you have any questions along the way. Yeah.
And happy May Day.
Yeah. Not yet, right?
Traditionally, we always have a May Day protest at Hong Lim Park, but this year and last year, because of COVID-19, there is no protest is possible.
Correct.
Every year you look at the statistics, it gets sadder by the year, because we talk so much about doing so many things, helping workers, so many different schemes to hold workers. But you look at the bottom line number, the most important one, incomes, it is very sad. I just give you another one. If you look at the ITE fresh graduates, in 1999, the fresh graduate median salary was $1,500. In 2019, 20 years later, it only increased by $300 to $1,800. So after adjusting for inflation, IT fresh graduates starting pay has actually declined in real terms by 0.6% per annum in the last 20 years. And if you look at polytechnic or you look at university, more or less it tells you a similar story, that incomes has not gone up, or actually has gone down in real terms, and the cost of living keeps going up. I think we are now the fourth or fifth most expensive city in the world, according to the economists. And you just have to look around you every day. Cost of everything is going up. HDB flats are going through the roof. They just increase petrol taxes, and this affects taxi drivers, private hire drivers, but it filters down to the consumer, because all the companies that have to pay more for their petrol may just have to pass it on to consumers.
And most importantly is that when companies increase price, it will not be just a reflection of the increase. for example, we take GST for example. When GST increased from 5% to 7%, that 2% does not translate to the price increase. Meaning people increase price like 5%, 5%, or say 7%, because for the business owner, they have to go to wrong figures. Meaning if 2% increases or maybe 3 cents, they will round off the figure to say 10 cents, for example.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, like, if a drink, a cup that at one time was $1, then they will up it to $1.10. Let's not forget, water price was increased a few years
30%.
ago. Since we're talking about increase, let me talk about decrease. A few days ago, our largest supermarket chain, FairPrice, announced that since it is their, I think, 60th anniversary or something, they're having a special discount scheme. And listen to this. For specified items in the store, union members get a 50% discount on these special items. And for members of the public, they don't get these discounts. However, there's a small consolation. Members of the public can get discounts on certain online products which they have to buy online. So the question a lot of people are asking is, we are now in the COVID-19 situation. A lot of people are suffering. Why do you give a discount only to union members in the store, or only to? What about members of the public? Don't we deserve some discounts too on your 60th anniversary? And then I look at the annual report of FairPrice. It had I think $980 million of net profits in the last 5 years. Now, some of you may not know this. Social enterprises do not really pay corporate taxes, very little. Most of the contribution goes to the Singapore Labour Foundation and the Central Cooperative Fund or something. So instead of corporate companies paying 17% corporate tax, social enterprises, pay this 17% to the Singapore Labour Foundation and the Central Cooperative Enterprise or something. Now, then if you ask yourself, if one social enterprise, FairPrice, has 980 million profits, net profits, after the transfers in the last 5 years, how much do all the 10 NTUC social enterprise make in terms of profits? Well,
the other enterprise, NTUC income.
I mean, you add them all together, the 10. How much profits do they make?
So we have the income, so which also cover MediSave premiums. MediShield premiums. You have the education branch, so manpower, so all the skills upgrading. You have that. Then you have the childcare. Essentially, they have reached down to all roots, all corners of Singapore economy in a certain aspect, is it?
Yes, but I just want to maybe I misunderstood what you mentioned about MediShield.
Yes.
Income essentially doesn't have much to do with MediShield, because MediShield Life, right, is run by the government.
No.
Yeah.
What I meant would be the life insurance. The healthcare insurance premiums, because it's somewhat tied to the what you call the private shield plans.
Yes,
the
offered by
ITs,
income.
Independent providers.
All these will be separate from MediShield Life.
Correct. But it's like somewhat linked. Okay, so before we stray any further, right, I think 2 points I wanted to talk on. One thing is you mentioned about the graduate surveys, right? The wage surveys. I believe we had a conversation on that before. A lot of times the figures, right, seems to differ from what people see on the actual ground reality. So you of course you do have people who are paid, like say poly graduates paid 3,000, 4,000 for a certain program. But in most cases, you're looking at 2,000, 2005, around that area. The reason that previously you mentioned was that people who are getting less than the market, right, would definitely would most of the time not respond to the survey, and it's not mandatory for them to reply in the first place. And those people who are happy or comfortable with the wage that they're getting, they would say, "Oh, I'm getting this price." So in a way, it gets distorted. Do you still think that?
This may be a possible reason, like what you have mentioned, but I think what is key now is you look at the latest graduate employment surveys, the percentage or proportion who are in permanent full-time jobs have declined significantly.
So most are on contract or part-time.
If I may cite the worst one,
Yes.
which is those who graduate from private institutions,
Yes.
it's slightly just over 50% are able to get full-time, permanent employment. I can't remember the figure for like the NUS and NTU, but
Yes.
I think if I recall correctly, the full-time permanent employment for these top-notch universities is somewhere around 70 odd or 80%, but it is lower compared to recent years.
Okay. So even those who are well qualified would find it hard to get employed.
Now, of course, you say anecdotally, you talk to people, a lot of people say, hey, but it's so hard for me to, it's so hard for me to get a job. How come still the statistics seem to show that a lot of people, but there's one other possible reason. I can't vouch for this, but I've been told that companies may give priority to employing fresh graduates. So if you are a fresh graduate, maybe you have a better chance. Imagine you graduated 1, 2, or 3 years ago, and then you want to quit and change job. Then a lot of people are saying, well, it's extremely difficult, right? It seems the fresh graduate may stand a better chance of getting employment relative to those who have graduated 1, 2, or 3 years ago who are changing jobs.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. So Ravi asks, like, what about those 100,000 who are currently unemployed and cannot get any assistance? How will they survive this pandemic? My input on that point, right, is that in Singapore, you would not see anyone, dying of poverty, right? Dying of starvation, for example.
First, let me just make correct the I want to ask the question.
Yes.
It's not that they're not getting any assistance.
Yeah.
In fact, there is currently the COVID recovery grant. That is, if you're unemployed for 3 consecutive months, you can get $800 a month for at least 3 months. So that is the what. Of course, a lot of people say it's very, very miserable assistance for the unemployed. Sorry, Terry, I interrupted you.
Oh, no.
Question?
So agree that there's assistance. And in fact, that's my point. One thing good, even if you were to say that the PAP sucks, is that Singapore, the baseline is that no one should ever die because they are poor. So they would like us to starve, basically. There are a lot of people who are really starving. And malnutrition, but if you are that poor in which you can't get buy food or etc., the social welfare would definitely come in, because their baseline is that no one should be in a situation where they would die of starvation.
Well, that begs the question as to if you look at the Leong Center or the Leong Foundation study, SMU, that came out last year, based on pre-COVID-19, means 2019 statistics. 1 in 10 households don't have enough money to eat.
Yes.
Nobody is. You don't see people starving on the streets. I don't know about now, but pre-COVID, there were many places where you can go to have free food every day.
Yes.
It was estimated that every day there were 50,000 people.
There are various charities,
getting free food.
temples.
Yeah, but now with the COVID-19 restrictions, I don't know if all these free food venues are still operating.
I think
I don't think so, right?
if I do recall, they are still operating. The issue is when COVID struck last year, to prevent crowding and mingling of the population, and therefore such practices are put to stop. It's not that they run out of resources to give up. It's just that they don't allow people to like congregate, and therefore there was no just handing out. It's the same goes to those people who were distributing the large boxes to those people in the rental flats. Same thing, they couldn't do it because the COVID regulation was that you can't visit others during that time. But whether or not this has gone back to the same scale pre-COVID, I think maybe not, because some groups rely on donations, contributions from people, well-wishers. So some have not gotten the same level of support, of course, due to the COVID pandemic affecting the economy. So I think by and large, the places of worships most likely have resumed, but it's those independent bodies of individuals doing all these handouts that are heavily affected. Yes. So
I'll give you a tip. If you have no food to eat, no money to buy food, call the Comcare hotline. You know, I think the number is 1-800-222-0000 something.
Since we're on that,
Yeah.
how about you talk about the?
Shall we make a call now?
No. What's the criteria in which the Comcare look at?
That is, people have been asking over the years, why can't you tell us what is the criteria you use for Comcare? But no answer. You know, it's like it's a secret. No, what criteria is used to? I just saw a post on the Facebook, and I cannot verify whether it's true or it's fake news or whatever. You know, I don't want to be sued again for talking, not sharing, but this time talking about fake news. But this one talked about a person who went to apply for social assistance because he basically has got no money to eat, no money to pay rental. He's sharing a one-room rental flat with another person, and this other person, out of the goodness of his heart, actually gives him some pocket money to eat and actually pay the flat, the HDB rental flat rent. And this person has been unemployed for quite some time. But he then posted, I think, a reply from the social assistant saying that his application has been rejected because since his friend is able to provide him with subsistence, they are rejecting his application. So I don't know if any of you have come across similar situations. Please let us know.
No, that's very common. In my past experience with people from rental flats, they face the same situation. For example, if they were to have a family member that's getting an insurance payout, they have some sort of income that the Comcare could look at, could see. They would say, you either don't qualify or I'll cut off what I would actually give out to you.
Okay, so what you're saying is that as long as the person is getting assistance from someone, I tell you a very funny story when we were doing financial counseling this last 20 years or so. There was one case, the person said I'm unemployed, I cannot work, I'm destitute, I have no income, nothing, no assets, no money in the bank, but everything I apply for is all rejected. I said, why? And the answer, because one kind soul allow me to stay in his house, and his house is a private property, so with that address everything gets rejected.
It's assumed that the person who let you there would be helping out with expenses.
And I said, who's this person? I said, no, it's not my relative or not even my friend, just a kind soul. The house very big, just let me stay in one room and helps to give me food and all that. No, the person was so grateful. The person actually in tears, I remember.
While the government or the bodies that are administrating this say that what they're doing here is being prudent in making sure that the right money goes to the right people who are needy, but if you were to look at the cost of this whole administration, all these so-called social workers, all these gatekeepers, all these bodies, right? The expenses that you use, right, to do this gatekeeping, right, is is not a small sum. If the amount has been we are using small amount to ensure that we don't waste the money, right? That's fine. But if your money, right, is used in such a way to gatekeep, the money that you spend to gatekeep is much more than what you pay out, right? Something is very wrong.
Yeah, you made a very good point, Terry. Like I always say, let the numbers do the talking. Look at the numbers. Comcare, I think it's $151 million to 80,000 beneficiaries. You do the numbers. You divide 151 million by 80,000 beneficiaries. It's not a lot. And like Terry say, you have 20 over social service officers. You have 5 CDCs. Not forgetting the mayor alone gets $660,000.
$660,000 a year on top of their MPK.
And then I remember when they set up all these social officers, and then they develop a software to assist with the delivery. The software alone cost $21 million. Which is like almost 20% of the annual Comcare payout at that time. So Terry, you asked an excellent question. You add all this, what is the cost of delivery, and at the end of the day, what is that relative to the actual amount of assistance that is given out? And it's funny, every time you see a media story about a person getting financial assistance, the most important number is almost always absent. Maybe that's why our press freedom ranking has dropped to 160th, because the most obvious question to me is, when you're doing a story on social assistance, you have to ask and put there how much assistance, how much money actually is the person getting. But it's almost never ever shown in every story that you read about people being helped for social assistance.
I think one factor is that a lot of times when the government entities say that someone's being helped, they are not just help in cash, but also in terms of directing you to this certain agency, directing this, for example, a family, other than receiving some pocket money allowance from like Comcare, then you have directing to certain agency to waive off certain fees, or like say the town council to waive off this the maintenance fees, for example. So a lot of things are in kind. I recall what the Chan Chun Sing said when he was back in the MSF, where you have 13 layers of kueh lapis, so social welfare. So it's, in a way, to me, it's very convoluted, because a family already has issue. You're talking about not a well-to-do family. You're not talking about a well-educated family. You're talking about a family who's just trying to make ends meet, and trying to navigate through this process. It's like asking the person to sit through an A-level exam to say what can you apply for, what can you do, what do I qualify for, whether do I have the meet. And it's always those shrewd families that are able to navigate. Whereas for those people, down-to-earth, honest individuals, right, they would say, why go through all this hassle? I'll just try, I'll just hire harder, earn more, and then just get over the business.
This brings to mind, that the rhetoric or the narrative that there are a lot of government transfers to help people. But you look at a lot of the government transfers, they are not actual cash or assistance that can help a person. Let me give you some examples. Government transfer in terms of top up to MediSave. How does that help you? Only when you have to fall sick or have to go to the hospital, then you can use, right? Which in any case, even if it's no top up, if you are really that poor, you can apply under MediFund. And then you have like all this, like Terry say, you save rebates and waivers and all that. So all these are money that you should be paying, but you have no money to pay, so they help you to pay it, and therefore it is a government transfer. But it doesn't help you, because if you can't pay, means you can't pay, right? It's like every time they increase the premiums for MediShield Life or CareShield Life, they tell you, to help you, we have a transitional subsidy, That means starting, for most people, you pay less, then every year a bit more, then after 4 years of transition, then you pay the full amount, right? But it's so silly, right? Why don't I just say you pay less, because what all this means is at the end of the day, everybody still have to pay more, right? Right from the beginning, in fact. So a lot of the government transfers, like HDB grants. I mean, if you're not buying a HDB flat, how does the HDB grant help you? It's not right. So you can't say I add up the total of all the HDB funds, the total of all the MediSave top-ups, the total of all the waivers, all the rebates, everything. I say, so all this I divide by all of you. I say, well, each of you getting a lot of money. But you can see, obviously, like Terry is pointing out, there are a lot of people who fall through the crack because you don't go to hospital, you don't buy HDB, you're not entitled to all these things, then you get nothing. Right? It's very different from social welfare in other countries. I mean, you get help, right, across the board rather. I mean, let's take the example of children, right? Singapore is probably the only country I know of in the developed world whereby if the married mother who's working, right, gets much more assistance or benefits than a mother who is not working because of the tax rebate for working mothers, right? So you can have a situation where if the mother very high income can get up to $80,000 more in terms of a tax rebate, whereas the mother who is not working does not get this, right? So in a sense, you are discriminating in a way against mothers who are lower income or do not work. Now, another interesting statistic, I think for the first time ever, was a year ago or so, they released statistics about how many parents actually top up the child development account. It was very surprising because a lot of parents don't. Now it's a no-brainer, right? You top up the child development account, government matches $1 to $1, and then your child can use it for
enrichment
childcare
costs,
and enrichment, right?
travel,
so why a lot of parents don't top up? I think the answer is obvious. They don't even have money to survive, to put food or milk on the table. How do they top up money to get extra matching $1 from the government? So we cannot have all these government transfers or schemes that, in a sense, discriminate ordinary, poorer people.
Yeah. Okay, so before we continue, maybe Jeffrey from YouTube, right, can elaborate on your question about golden handshake. I might get what you're trying to say, but I think it's better if you elaborate on what circumstances is it unfair, and what was that?
By the way,
Yes.
Jeffrey's question is on retrenchment benefits.
For those people who are,
yeah.
I think work with the company for a long period of time and asked to go. I in most cases I don't think it will be unfair. But let me see. In most cases it won't be unfair. But we have situations such as what we see in Semuanya Jurong. I think it was 2-3 years ago where people were given 2 letters. One letter is, okay, this is a letter of resignation. This is a letter of termination. So in a way, instead of having a retrenchment exercise, it became a choice. You want to be terminated by us, or you want to resign on your own accord. So my understanding of people, Singaporean workers, is that they don't want to be in a situation where they have to tell their future company that, or when they are asked this question, why do you leave the previous company? Or I was terminated. They don't want to have to say that. They won't want to say that I resign on my own accord. And therefore, when you're put in such a situation where you know that there's a retrenchment exercise, and but you're told that you have this choice, very likely that you will just suck them and just let it go. But I think in the case of Semuanya Jurong, that was a bit serious to in the terms of the scale, and which is why a lot of people went to raise this up either in public or to their union leaders.
By the way, smaller companies are not required to report retrenchment, right? Smaller companies, I think
Less
now
than-
is
less
less
than
than 10.
10. Less than 10,
I think it used to be less than 25 or something, but I think the number has been reduced to less than 10 or not, maybe due to the COVID-19. And the other interesting fact is that in Singapore, companies are not required by law to pay retrenchment benefits. It depends on the company's ability to do so. So a company can always say, okay, I'm retrenching all these people, but I'm not paying them anything, as per the guidelines because I can't afford to. And there's nothing you can do about it because we are one of the, probably this is a joke in town that where got country, the retrenchment law does not, make it such that the company, if have to pay, But others can say, oh, I don't pay because I cannot afford to pay.
Yeah.
Right? There's no, you can't even say, can you show me exactly why you cannot to pay?
Yeah.
Right? Because the law does not say so.
Yes. It doesn't have the proof that you can't.
Yeah, correct. So like Terry, you say, for every person that you read who falls into the retrenchment statistics, there probably, arguably, maybe there's another one who is in reality retrenched,
one or
but
more.
don't are not captured by the statistics.
One question asked by Andrew Xiao. What's your thought about having Singapore PRs renouncing their PR and so that they could take their CPF and go back to home country? But I think before you answer that question, that question seems not to be a question because that is the process in which how you get back your CPF money in the first place. I think the question should be, right, are we at a disadvantage when it comes to comparing PRs and Singaporeans, where Singaporeans, you can't move unless you go and migrate. If not, you can't touch your CPF money until the age of 65. Whereas for PRs, you can work all the way until your retirement. And then at that point in time, instead of having to have your money stuck in CPF, you simply say, okay, I'm going back to my home country and take all the money out. Except for those people who are in East Malaysia. Except for those people in East Malaysia, people in Sabah can do that. So would that be a disadvantage when it comes to comparing Singaporeans and PRs?
Well, Andrew, I think the answer to your question is all over the internet. You can see so many people saying on the net citizens saying, I wish I was not born a Singaporean, because if I born a foreigner, I come here, become a PR, then I work. Then at some point in time, I just decide, okay, I declare that I will not return to Singapore to work anymore. I can withdraw all my CPF, I can sell my HDB, take everything and go home and live happily ever after. In fact, my understanding is practically all foreigners or foreign countries can do this, like what I just mentioned, except West Malaysians, right?
Johor, KL.
Have to wait until they are 55 before they can, give up the PR and say they will never ever come back to work. For all other nationalities, including East Malaysians, you can do it anytime, whether you're 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old. You can simply say, okay, I'm not going to come to Singapore to work anymore. I declare that, I withdraw all my CPF, I sell my HDB, and I go back home and live happily ever after.
I forgot what question am I looking at just now.
Wow, so many questions. Today, very good business.
So this question by Paul and Paul, what's your thoughts on Singaporeans moving overseas to be foreign talents? You see, this is a question that I always want to ask back to Singaporeans on when it comes to implementing minimum wage and when it comes to paying fair wages to migrant workers. When Singaporeans go to, say, New York to become a designer, to become an IT tech, or let's say Silicon Valley, are we paid any lesser than the locals?
Typically,
no.
In the developed countries, you don't get paid much less. Because you are a foreigner. In other words, you're not discriminated.
Because
in Singapore, why do you think we have so much problems that people say, I'm losing my job to foreigners and they're taking over my jobs? It's because, they can work for much lower pay,
Both ways. So one is they can work for much lower pay. Then the second thing is that it's not illegal or it's not wrong for them to pay a differential to have a differential wage system.
Yes.
Yeah, just simply because
and of course you have to understand this. For Singaporean to go work in most countries, it's very difficult to get a visa to work there, right? Whereas for Singapore, well, let me tell you something funny. A few days ago, I saw in the media, big story. Oh, think about 20 or 30 people, illegals, caught working in Singapore,
yes.
Now, the big problem is not the illegals. This few, very small number, right? The big problem is, anyone can come to Singapore as a tourist, apply for a job, get it, and then stay
Interview.
on. Yeah, you can't do that in almost any developed country, and that's why we even post-COVID, the latest statistics I've been able to analyze, my estimate is that the total workforce, we still have about 44.5% of the total workforce who are non-Singaporean now.
Sad. I would like to answer a question that was asked previously by Stebadio Peng. His question was that, I understand that development construction costs in Singapore comparing to developed countries is similarly high, but even though we have access to cheap workers, when the developed countries do not have. So is any comments? Before I chime in, see, I come from the I won't say I come from construction industry, but I come from an industry that's very linked to it. I come from
that's why you're so tough, lah.
I'm from the fire safety. I was for a period of time was working with fire safety division. So the thing here is, right, even when the workers are cheap in a sense, because we hire migrant workers, we pay them less than $1,000, and even if you say we consider the fact that we pay for their lodging, we pay for their work levy and so right, it's still definitely lower than hiring a local. The issue here is that then the question here is, then why is it that the construction costs are still so high? The reason is you have so many tiers of middlemen. I can take a job, I can take a project, and that project does not come from the customer itself. I'm only able to take from someone of a bigger scale than me. Because why? The project requires a certain capital as a basis. So the big companies would have the capital, say, I have this money that I could invest in. But instead of them having the capacity to do the job, they will say, okay, I have already secured the job. Say this is a $5 million project. I will just subcon this to another tier. So this is something I will just keep 1 million as profit. Okay, 4 million, you're going to take it, and what I do? The next tier will get the 4 million and say, okay, I'll keep 1 million or maybe 500,000 and I'll pass it down to the next tier. So most of the time I'm of the fourth tier.
Okay.
But even so, my company still can earn a profit because of the low wage. And this is exactly why, right, there are two outcomes from this. One, companies that are who are trying to go against the trend to hire locals into this construction industry are unable to compete with those that are hiring low wage workers, because you can never outbid them when it comes to just looking at the price. Unless there's requirements saying that, okay, your company or this project must be worked on the basis of how many locals. Unless you have that criteria, if not, just purely based on the financial, based on the numbers, the cost of the project, you will definitely lose, no matter how you look at it. And also, many times you how can you gauge the quality? Just like renovation, right? How you know the quality only after maybe word of mouth, maybe, but there's nothing to on that. So it's very hard for customer to say, okay, what's your quality? They only can look at the price, and therefore the low wage worker or the whole cascade of people working using the low wage worker would be out of it. And that goes back to the question: why is it that the in other developed countries, right, they are able to pay their workers at a high wage, and yet at the same time charge about the same as what Singapore does, because they don't have this whole weird chain of middlemen this middleman. This example, personal example, I could give is that I was backpacking in Japan, and I'm at a skiing resort. And this guy was there for half a year. This is Australian. I asked him, what do you work as? I'm a carpenter. You know, in Singapore, carpenter, your earning is what, 2K, 3K if you're experienced. For him, because he is his own boss, any contract that he gets would be managed by him. He's his own boss. He would. Any workers he hire will be also on the same tier. He will not subcontract. And the thing is, because the labor market in such a way that if they were to so-called outsource, right, it will cost more than the project itself already. So it would not make any sense. So because he is able to earn so much, he was there for half a year. So during the lull period, he'll be there half a year skiing. Then half a year he'll be back in his home country and doing all his projects. And that you have to ask yourself, why is that the blue collar in Singapore, right, earn so little as compared to similar professions in other developed countries? Because the thing is, they are undercut. They're undercut by both middlemen and also foreign migrant workers. And this is where we go back to the previous point that we were speaking in this session. Migrant workers should not be paid any lesser than the locals. And because migrant workers are doing the same job in the first place, so they you have to again go back to what Goh Chok Tok said, I think in 1987, around there, where he literally opened up the floodgate in foreign workers when he said, we need talents to help Singapore grow economy. I don't disagree with that. We need talents. Just as US also like readily, and Europe openly readily invite foreign talents. But the thing is, we are not opening the floodgates for cheap labor. He didn't say in his speech. He didn't say cheap labor, isn't it? So instead of opening the gate for foreign talents to come in to help Singapore economy, we open the floodgate for cheap labor, and that really marks the start of decline of Singapore economy, where we are no longer looking for quality, we're not looking for substance. We were just simply for what's the cheapest thing, and that's why the quality of work that we have is actually getting worse. Okay, enough.
Terry, I think you forgot to mention one important tier in the middleman. You forgot to mention the government. Just the foreign workers levy alone, I understand in a year is something like $3+ billion. So that takes away a big chunk, right, that you are talking about, right? And of course, the workers may be cheap, but productivity is low, and everything else is very expensive. Now, you mentioned about bidding, the minimum requirements to bid. Yes. Over the years, has this minimum requirement been increasing over the years? You need more capital, you need to be a bigger company, has that been the case over the years? The minimum keeps getting higher?
I think, I believe the URA is privy of this, and then they are trying to lower the thing. But again, the issue here is a civil servant mindset. So if I were to lower the thing and pass this project from civil service point of view, or even employer point of view, or employee point of view, where if I lower the thing and I give anything screw up, would be my fault. Singapore has this very bad mindset where no one wants to take responsibility for the work that they are doing. So if I can just set an arbitrary level order, this level has been set by someone else, right? I can, if any goes wrong, I say, I have already complied to all the thing, and go wrong, then that's not my fault. Same thing with the GBs, for example.
Since we are talking about construction, I take this opportunity to thank someone. My house, the wall, was deemed to have encroached state land by 13 to 49 cm. And so I was asked to rectify it, meaning that I had to break the wall, knock it down and build a new one. Although the wall, at the back of my house, which was, my father's house, the wall has been there for 60 over years. I want to thank this person whom I didn't know at that time, but I've gotten to know better now. This contractor who volunteered to help me, what he did was he broke the wall into 4 pieces, brought it back and joined it back again. And I'm told by my friends in construction that is like a miracle in itself. How can you break the wall into 4 parts, bring it back and join it back? So thank you very much, Eddie. For doing this miracle on my wall. Thank you.
Okay, so on the question by Serena Lim, so she said that Singaporeans are operating on a Singaporean first mentality, but has been accused of being xenophobic. So she says that I feel that there's a fine line between xenophobic and being concerned about the country's future. So what's the thought of this? You say first, then I say.
Focus on the numbers. Focus on transparency. Focus on accountability. Then you don't have to worry so much about whether you're xenophobic or whatever, right? Because the numbers,
Won't lie.
don't lie. They tell the story.
But you can massage the figures, right? There's a limit to how you can massage.
Okay, that's another story that we probably don't have time to get into for this session.
Because for that, that's the reason why parliamentarians from the alternate parties, right, have been trying to ask, can you break down the PRs from the countries of origin? I believe the answer given was that most came from Asia. I think
they also cited that for reasons of national security.
Yeah.
We cannot tell you.
But that goes back to what you were saying just now. You have to be transparent in order for people to understand. And on being xenophobic, I think since 2013, since the population white paper, this public furor about why Singapore has to keep opening its floodgate for foreigners, and this label xenophobic came in. You want to weigh on that first?
Well, I mean, you look at the population numbers, about 4 in 10 people in Singapore are non-Singaporean.
Yeah.
I mean, the numbers speaks for
4
itself.
in 10 residents.
4 in 10 people, because it includes the foreigners, of course.
Okay, 4 in
the
10
population.
people who are here in Singapore.
Yeah, so you look at our 5.7 million population,
5.8.
4 in 10 are non-Singaporean.
Yeah. So, and if you were to compare, say 20, 30 years ago, right, you're talking about
you're talking about less than maybe 0.5 in 10.
Yeah.
If you look at, say, the
90s,
70s, or even the late,
I think
even the
early 90s, early 90s,
early 80s maybe.
Early 90s. We had a graph previously where you saw the huge increase starting from the 90s. Yeah, prior to that, even when we talk about those people on higher pass, right?
So I think it's ridiculous to say, you are xenophobic, so I cannot break down the numbers for you. I mean, what has breaking down numbers got to do with xenophobia, right?
Also, I think we have to, whenever someone makes this comment, say, you're xenophobic, we have to also consider this consideration that which country in the world, putting aside I think Dubai, is it, where you have such concentration of foreigners in the country, and not to mention about our land size in terms of density. Like if Hong Kong embraces foreign talent, they also don't have this situation.
You're right. I think in terms of non-Singaporean workers rather non-citizen to citizen workers, I believe Dubai is the number 1 in the world with the most number of proportion of non-citizen workers. I think Singapore is number 2 or something, in terms of proportion. But you see, the key difference here is you must look at, in Dubai, how does the local worker relate to the foreign workers compared to Singapore? How do Singaporeans relate to foreign workers? Here you have a very unlevel playing field, where you find that it has resulted in depression of wages, underemployment, so many problems. In Dubai, if you go, you talk to the locals, they don't have this. You don't have this issue. For example, you land in Dubai airport. All the people who are at the immigration, you can see they are all locals. Right? So locals don't have the problems that our Singaporeans have in Dubai.
Because they are not discriminated in their work.
Yeah, there is much less discrimination, right? In fact, there's no discrimination. The discrimination is the reverse. In Dubai, as I understand, it's the foreign workers who are discriminated against.
By the locals.
But in Singapore, is the opposite. You know, so the issue, right, is not what is the proportion. Okay, the issue is what is the implication for Singaporeans, or in the case of Dubai, the Dubai citizens, right, in terms of what it means to their life. I mean, are there a lot of people in Dubai who are locals struggling to make ends meet compared to the number who are struggling in Singapore? If you do a comparative analysis, you can see there's a huge gap. That although Dubai has much higher foreign workers proportion, the locals relative to Singapore are so much happier, so much better off. Their lives are so much better off.
Okay, so what question I was looking at? I forgot. We have to write things down. I was forgetting something. So let me see the question again. Okay. So a question by Wing Hong Chan about is the prices of food in supermarkets, NTUC, Sheng Siong, and etc. High because there are so many on demand? No, I don't think so. That's the case. In the case of retail, right, it's really it's really about supply and demand. The wholesaler would set the price. The market would determine what would be the reasonable price for.
Well, my answer is I don't have the answer to your question. But if you look at the number, fair price net profits before the 17% transfer from the gross profit to Singapore Labour Foundation and the Central Cooperative, the price of something, 900 over million in the last 5 years.
Okay, maybe on that, the question would be, right, is there a monopoly when it comes to monopoly of price? Because when NTUC fair price was introduced, the idea was to bring down the prices for the masses. And now that NTUC is the biggest player, if I'm not wrong, a biggest player, I think apart from Sheng Siong, they are the liberty to set the prices at a reasonable price where bear in mind they are social enterprise first. Bear in mind that they still are in the black and the prices are reasonable, but given that that they are earning such a high profit, right, either they are such good business people where they are able to maximize the revenue by charging at the lowest price, or they are charging at a price that is where kind of above the price that they brought.
I have some cheeky answers to this question.
Yes.
Don't you find it strange that every time a grocery voucher is given out to the needy, from CDC or under Comcare or whatever, it's always the same supermarket, right? And I'll tell you a funny story. This goes way back, long time ago. You see, Case used to publish annual study of which is the cheapest supermarket, right? And of course, needless to say, every year it was the same supermarket. But I think they don't do this study anymore, right?
No, they don't. So I did a survey. My TOC actually did a survey recently on the prices. We realized that the prices are very similar, and the difference is probably 10 cents, 20 cents. I believe that the supermarkets themselves, they have there are a few reasons to this. First thing is there's this online market nowadays. So people nowadays could just go onto their website and then look at the price. And the price on their website can't be that the difference too much from one another. There will be a significant difference only when there are there are ongoing promotions that certain markets will have from another. If not, you will not be that much differential. So the question is, who is then setting the price? Is it the wholesaler, or is it the markets within the supermarkets within themselves that they are setting a certain price?
Let me tell you a very funny story. This happened very long ago. I wrote an article on the Online Citizen very long ago. I think before you joined the Online Citizen.
On what?
When do you join?
11.
2011. I think it's before, right? So I wrote an article and I said, okay, Case does a study to find which is the cheapest supermarket. And then the study is based on 10 items for comparison. So in my article I said, I find it very strange that of the 10 items, 3 of them are detergents, Why do you need 3 detergents in
Not
the 10
essential,
items? Are not essential in order to be the criteria to determine which is the cheapest supermarket. So the rest of the story, I think, is no need to say some more lah. Okay.
So it's 2 o'clock now. So maybe we have the last. Okay, wait. So Jeffrey just came in. I see. Okay, so you understand his question? So if the person if the company were to offer re-employment, then there's no golden handshake payout.
Okay, the question is pertains to the Re-employment Act. Now the Re-employment Act says the employer has to offer re-employment. Okay. However, he can offer any terms. You can say, okay, I'm cut your pay in half, I make you work 12 hours a day in shift, and I send you to some island to work. Okay. Now, as long as they make you an offer, and if you reject it, they will have fulfilled the obligation under the Re-employment Act. And of course, the other very strange thing about Re-employment Act is the employer can determine whether you are fit for the job or not. They don't have to provide a medical report or independent assessment that you are medically or physically unfit for the job. That is solely at the discretion of the employer. Now, of course, you see the problem with so many things that we have discussed today about Re-employment Act, about retrenchment legislation is that if you are not happy, you think if you have been unfairly treated, you can always go and complain to TAFAP or complain to MOM, But if fundamentally the legislation is so weak, why is it so weak in the first place? I mean, why does our labor union not do more to protect our workers? And, all these are, I would say, so many things we talk about. But look at the most important one, look at income. Right? Why so many people earning so little?
So on Serena Lim, yes. On Florence Haynes' point, yes. Consumers nowadays are very smart. They would go and check the reviews, check the prices, and since the prices now are online, they could easily compare within the supermarkets, and choose which market to patronize. I would like to reply to. I think this will be the last one. So Serena Lim's point is an easy way out for the government. Okay, maybe not the government. People who are in support of the foreign talent scheme to say that people who are against the idea is xenophobic. It's very easy to label people. Label people xenophobic. Label people like us troublemakers. Label people publishers being West liberals. Labeling opposition members or alternate party members as people who are just there to try and make a big buck, quick buck. Label themselves as people who sacrifice. Who are sacrificing their time for the better of Singapore. Labeling is an easy job, and it's so easy and not to look into the issues of why such complaints are made out in the first place.
I am a troublemaker because my hobby for 20 over years has been to analyze government statistics and to ask questions and to ask for transparency and accountability. So let me cite you what I call the saddest of the job statistics. Now, earlier you heard me say that 158,600 full-time resident workers earn less than $1,500. Now, listen to this. 28,200 full-time, this is full-time workers, earn less than $1,000. And this is even worse. 4,000 full-time workers earn less than $500 a month, including employee CPF. Isn't that very, very sad?
Okay, really last question. Evelyn Tan in Facebook noted that the company cut the pay targeting at just 2 senior staff. Is that allowed?
So you're saying only the 2 senior staff pay got cut and all the rest didn't get cut?
Yeah, that's what the message says. Yeah. Is that illegal?
Well, the way you describe it, when you say senior staff, I assume the pay very high,
Yeah.
So they probably don't fall under the Employment Act, you see, right? So they don't, Employment has a ceiling in terms of the income.
The income.
So if they are really very high pay, they don't fall in the Employment Act. So
that's too bad.
It's too bad, You cannot say whether it's fair. There's no benchmark to say whether it's fair or unfair, right? It's not that you have been dismissed, then you can go and claim, sue for the unfair dismissal or something. But in this case,
you write to TAFEC, you say how much pay you get. Okay, bye.
But of course, I'm just trying to be funny. Let's say if they cut your pay by 90%, then what can you do? Well, basically, legally, there's nothing you can do, right? If they don't fall under the Employment Act, right? You can't complain to TAFAP, you can't complain to MOM, you can't complain to anybody. The only person you can see probably is your MP, but I don't think your MP can help you also.
Yes, basically.
Actually, there's only one way. You complain to Terry of the Online Citizen, you provide all the evidence, all the documentation. And if Terry write this story, just saying example, this person the pay got cut by 90%. Then the story will go out, and then maybe something will happen. I don't know.
No, it won't. The only situation I would advise anyone to come to me would be where it was an unfair dismissal, because that's the point where it's there's no return. If you were to come to me while you're still employed and you try to do this story, you'll definitely get fired. Because the reason you want to have this redress, right, is that you want outcome. So, but if you were to come to me while you're still employed, you're creating this self-fulfilling prophecy that you're gonna be.
Yeah, Terry has made a very excellent point. In fact, our primary principle in volunteering, doing financial counseling, is we focus on the outcome. The outcome, from the beneficiary's point of view.
We're not here to see show. We're not to see a show. We want to make sure that end of the day, something is positive and end up.
In fact, over the years, I think I written an article about this, explaining under what circumstances do you find that sometimes we actually publish a story on financial counseling. And we normally only do that when it's a hopeless case. We have tried everything and nothing works. And with the permission of the person, often, without using his real name, we put it out, because that is, in a sense, the last resort that some help can result in a better outcome for the person.
No, at one point in time, the ministries, what they do, they started to name the people.
Okay.
You remember?
And many of these, like what Terry is saying, is so funny. So we write the story because it's a hopeless case. And then the government agency actually rebuts the story and say, oh, actually your story is, this point
it's not
is
factual.
that's not actually correct.
Yeah.
That point is not actually correct, and then it become a ding dong. It become a ding dong story, right?
Trying to pick holes at the thing,
yeah.
and you forget the whole point.
The problem is the person has been unjustly or unfairly treated. Okay, the outcome that hopefully we can get is to help the person. And we do not, want to, arguably get into a debate that says, okay, you cited 10 points, but point number 9 is not correct. I mean, this is this has been going on for a long time, and I think people are getting wise to this, right? That they always pick 1 out of 10 and say, oh, that one not good. No, then what about the other 9?
I think, and also the worst thing is that they release things that are embarrassing to the person involved, and use that point as something, or as to justify their actions, or to allow the public to think negatively on the individual. However, if I'm not wrong, prior to the G2020, they have stopped that act. They have stopped naming the person, because there are a lot of backlash coming from people, because it's your how can you as the public entity, right, release information that's confidential. Because it's not on the person, but it's on the issue.
So this has stopped lah. It doesn't happen anymore lah, more or less.
Yes, I believe they have done so, because so far I have not seen case where they name the person specifically, because in the past, all the past stories, they do name the person, and so people could in a way do doxing on the person if they wish to. Yeah, so we have come to the end of today's live chat. If you all have any questions that you would like us to answer, please don't write into this chat, because I will not go back to look at the comments. Write to us separately on the message, or email to us, and suggest certain topics that we should cover on. On Jeffrey's point of whether should we cover more on the retrenchment, we see how we can slot in sometimes during our conversation. So, yeah.
Okay. Tell us what you want us to talk about next week, right? Goodbye, everyone.
Yeah, goodbye, and have a great week ahead.